Fellow Americans, this is Liberation Day. Waiting for a long time.
We are going to fight these tariffs with countermeasures.
Trade war is bad for working people.
This is an extraordinary day for the world economy.
Is a major blow to the world economy. I deeply regret this choice.
Which makes it less anybody be upset. They will be, because we never charge anybody anything. Now we're going to European Union, they're very tough, very, very tough traders.
U.S. President Donald Trump has fired the first shots in a sweeping new trade war. He has imposed brutal tariffs that threaten to upend global markets. At the heart of it, a universal 10% tariff on all imports into the U.S. for everyone, as well as higher duties on several countries, particularly in Asia. These measures risk dismantling entire business models for thousands of companies, factories, and entire countries in a way. It's the biggest upheaval in global trade norms since World War II. Is this merely a negotiation tactic, or is there more to it? The U.S. administration suggests it's a strategy to fund planned tax cuts. As the world reeled under Trump's tariff moves, the U.S. president said, and I'm quoting, "The operation is over, the patient lived and is healing. The prognosis is that the patient will be far stronger, bigger, better, and more resilient than ever before," quote unquote. That's what Trump posted on his Truth Social platform less than an hour before Wall Street opened for trading. Asked the White House, and it has bluntly said, I'm quoting, "This is not a negotiation, it's a national emergency," quote unquote. And what's the worst part, you ask? While Trump says he wants to protect his country, his measures are a disaster for the world's poorest countries. Reactions have been swift. Asian markets plummeted. Both China and the EU have vowed countermeasures. Australia and Italy have condemned this quote-unquote economic sabotage. Economists say this is the biggest change in global trade in 100 years. We've entered an era of uncertainty. What will the cost of this trade war be, really? Will it drive countries towards new alliances? Has America risked global isolation? Can it maintain its position while shaking the foundations of international trade? The barrage of tariffs targeted the European Union with a staggering 20%, Japan 24%, South Korea 25%, Taiwan and an astounding 32%. European Commission President has described Trump's tariffs as a major blow to the world economy. She said she deeply regretted the U.S. move and warned of immense consequences.
President Trump's announcement of universal tariffs on the whole world, including the European Union, is a major blow to the world economy. I deeply regret this choice. Let's be clear-eyed about the immense consequences. The global economy will massively suffer. Uncertainty will spiral and trigger the rise of further protectionism.
Even an uninhabited Antarctic island caught in the crossfire. Take a look at this picture on your screen. Satellite images of Heard and McDonald Islands located in the sub-Antarctic Indian Ocean. No one lives there, but they are Australian territory. And so they face a 10% tariff by the White House. Among the most baffling decisions, in a way, is the hefty 29% tariff on Norfolk Island, a tiny Australian outpost that's located just about 600 miles off the coast of eastern Australia. And according to the U.S. government data, the U.S. has recorded trade deficits with Norfolk Island for the past 3 years. This tiny island now shares a list with global giants like China, the EU, even though it has negligible manufacturing capacity. That's not all. Cambodia was slapped with Asia's highest tariff rate of 49%. You know how much the average Cambodian earns a day? Around $6.65. That's less than a fifth of the global average. Madagascar, which is one of the world's poorest countries, was hit with a rate of 47%. Bangladesh hit with 37%. Laos was hit with a 48%. Southern African nation of Lesotho was hit by a 50% tariff. And in Myanmar, which is still coming to terms with the devastating earthquake last week, was hit with a 45% duty. No wonder economists are questioning the fairness of America's tariff calculations, given its oversized impact on the poorest countries in a way. And Trump says he wants to get the U.S. trade deficit back to zero. But it's truly a total rewiring of the global economy. Tariffs at this scale on Asia will hike prices of clothes, toys, electronics much more quickly. The question is, how is the rest of the world responding? And what lies ahead? What's next? A messy global trade war, it seems. Meanwhile, Israel is tightening its control over Gaza, escalating its offensive to force Hamas into releasing hostages. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that his military will keep seizing territory until the hostages are freed. Further adding that the Israeli Defense Forces have now taken control of the Morag corridor, a critical strip of land between Khan Yunis and Rafah. The corridor was once an Israeli settlement before the country withdrew from Gaza in 2005. But now Netanyahu is calling it Israel's second Philadelphia corridor.
Last night in the Gaza Strip, we shifted gears. The IDF is seizing territory, striking terrorists, destroying infrastructure, and doing something additional. We are taking control of the Morag corridor. This will be the second Philadelphia, the additional Philadelphia corridor, because we are now dissecting the Gaza Strip and increasing the pressure step by step, so that they will return our hostages. The more they refuse, the more the pressure will increase until they do.
In fact, the Israeli military has released footage of its soldiers operating in Rafah, the southern city that it recently ordered Gazans to fully evacuate from. The IDF video shows troops maneuvering through houses, engaging in combat, and carrying out aerial strikes. The IDF has confirmed that its forces have successfully encircled the Tal al-Sultan neighborhood in Rafah, further extending its position in Gaza. And Trump's tariff bombshell has rattled global trade. India, though, sees a silver lining. As competitors face harsher blows, New Delhi is quietly working to turn adversity into advantage. The US has imposed a steep 34% tariff on Chinese goods, sending shock waves through supply chains. Countries like Indonesia and Vietnam, that are key competitors of India, are also reeling. India, though, hit with a 27% tariff, still has room to maneuver. While its exporters feel the impact is far less severe than that on China, the US has a trade deficit of $46 billion with India. The US president says the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is a good friend, but he pointed out India's high tariffs on American goods as unfair.
India, very, very tough, very, very tough. The Prime Minister just left. And he's a great friend of mine, but I said, you're a friend of mine, but you're not treating us right. They charge us 52%. You have to understand, we charge them almost nothing for years and years and decades.
New Delhi, in a carefully worded statement, says that it is studying the opportunities that may arise due to this new development, a likely reference to regional competitors being hit harder.
The global value chains will restructure because of this country-level uneven tariffs. And many of the goods like electronics, machinery, labor-intensive goods like textiles and garments, which were being produced in China, Vietnam competitively. Now, because of the high labor content in these goods, some of the global manufacturers may find relocating to India very attractive.
India's neighboring countries facing graver concerns. Bangladesh's textile industry calling the US tariffs a massive blow, warning of lost contracts and factory closures. Trump imposed a 37% tariff on Bangladesh. Bangladesh is the world's second biggest clothing exporter after China, by the way. And the garment sector employs more than 4 million workers in Bangladesh.
Obviously, these additional tariffs will have adverse implications for the consumers, the US consumers. To that extent, the demand for Bangladeshi apparels, and for that matter, all imported apparels, will be adversely impacted. It will go down.
A 44% tariff has been imposed on Sri Lanka. The island nation fears job losses in the thousands as its exports become more expensive for American buyers. With debt repayments due to start in 2028 after the country declared bankruptcy and entered an agreement with the IMF in 2022, key industries in a structured IMF recovery program may be hit by Trump's tariffs.
I would consider it serious because we are still at the tail end of the stabilization process, and our debt repayment will start in 2028, and the apparel industry, the rubber industry, and some of the agricultural products were the main categories that we were looking for expanding.
The White House says pharmaceutical goods from India will be exempt from the reciprocal tariffs, and this is crucial as India shipped more than $8 billion in exports to the US in the 2024 fiscal year. India's textile, electronic sectors also seeing a major opportunity. With China facing harsher tariffs and an increasingly hostile trade environment, global buyers are expected to seek alternatives. India's vast workforce, improving infrastructure and government incentives, making it a compelling choice. Ayaka Yoshida wanted to make menstrual products available in public restrooms. What happened next? She received thousands of death threats in a country where discussing periods is still taboo. Is Japan ready for this conversation? That's our next story. A story about a Japanese politician who received more than 8,000 death threats for proposing free sanitary napkins in public toilets. Can you believe that? Yoshida, who is a young member of the Japanese Communist Party, recently took to X to narrate the ordeal that she had to face when she suddenly got her periods one day. She went to the public toilet of the local city council office, but she could not find sanitary napkins. And as a result, she could not deal with it properly until she got home. She said, and I'm quoting here, "I want sanitary napkins to be available everywhere, like toilet paper," quote unquote. Yoshida, a member of the Prefectural Assembly in central Japan, said in a separate post that when a question was asked at the city council about installing sanitary napkin dispensers, the city authorities also were reluctant, reportedly. Now, let's just pause here. Does Yoshida's statement offend you in any way? Do you find it problematic? Is asking for a proper and hygienic way to deal with periods wrong? Because what happened next is beyond imaginable. According to South China Morning Post, the May Prefectural Assembly received over 8,000 death threat emails directed at Yoshida. And what's worse, all the emails reportedly came from one address and carried an identical message. They said, I'm quoting, "I will kill Assembly member Ayaka Yoshida, who does not bring emergency napkins with her while being old enough to know better," quote unquote. Yoshida herself shared a post on X on 31st of March saying she had received over 8,000 death threats, saying, and I'm quoting, "I felt scared." The politician reportedly told a news conference that these threats intimidated her and suppressed her activities. But she has filed a complaint with the police and an investigation is underway. But what warrants this reaction? Why should a woman who has to go through a very natural and bloody process every month face this level of anger? All she did was ask for a very basic facility. In Japan, period poverty or the inability to afford menstrual products is a growing issue, by the way. Recent surveys have shown 8.2% of women between the ages of 18 and 49 struggle to access sanitary goods. Additionally, menstruation remains a taboo topic in Japan, and women often feel embarrassed or ashamed to discuss it, which can further worsen the problem. While Japan has a menstrual leave policy, Many women are reportedly unaware of it, and some feel pressure to take sick leave or are discouraged from taking time off work due to the country's excessive work culture. In fact, some 44% of women in Japan do not take any time off reportedly, even when they are in serious pain from their period. Sure, things have started changing, and in recent years, sanitary pads are increasingly becoming available for free in public restrooms. In fact, Sendai in Japan's Tohoku region has been providing free sanitary pads near the Sendai station since the COVID-19 pandemic. But 50 years after a female student led a movement at Tohoku University demanding the right, a lot still needs to be done. Unfortunately, sanitary napkins are still not considered essential supplies like toilet paper.